live on the air. I'm Richard Saile.
This is wild.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Lounge Time. I'm your host, Rich Saile, and today on 2026 Offseason Grades, we are going over the Denver Broncos. We are now halfway through each of the 32 NFL teams after today's episode, so we are halfway through the series. It's hard to believe that I've got half of the league left to go, and we are almost done with this series. We're halfway through. And we're looking to get it done by late August if we don't have any more hiccups, which that's going to be hard to predict, but hopefully we will get through this series for the second half of this series. But team number 16, the Denver Broncos, they made some help on their offensive depth, including a big trade that we're going to get into in just a moment. They had a pretty good draft. So without further ado, let's get into the Denver Broncos offseason moves. And what did they do? Well, let's get to the headline move of their offseason, which was they got Bo Nix some help in the wide receiver room and a upgrade to their number one receiver, landing Dolphins wide receiver Jaylen Waddle for a first-round pick, a third-round pick, and a fourth-round pick for Jaylen Waddle and a fourth-round pick. So I mentioned in the Dolphins episode where it was a first-round pick this year, a third-round pick this year, and a fourth-round pick this year or next year on the fourth-rounder for Jaylen Waddle, and I think it was this year's fourth-rounder. Something along those lines with the fourth-round picks. But I know the first and third were definitely in this draft particularly. So did Jaylen Waddle upgrade the Broncos wide receiver room? Without a question it did. He is clearly better than Courtland Sutton. He is better than Troy Franklin. He is better than some of those other guys that they have, like Marvin Mims. And I'll go down the depth chart when we get to that a little bit. But this is exactly the kind of fit that Sean Payton needs in his offense. If you look at all the years with Sean Payton, they always had that guy that safeties had to go, oh shit, you cannot let him get by. And I remember New Orleans, several guys that he had, Robert Meacham's, Devery Henderson's. I remember going Brandon Cooks. He had always guys that you just could not let get by a defense. And he had Jaylen Waddle is the perfect role for this offense that Sean Payton has constructed. And yes, Bo Nix is not the guy that throws a ton of 20-plus yard passes through the air. He's kind of like that point guard, the check down. But Jaylen Waddle now at least gives defenses somebody to go, we cannot let him score a 60-plus yard touchdown on us in a game. You just cannot let that happen. So when I look at this offense, you've got Sutton, who's your 50-50 receiver. You've got Pat Bryant for depth. You've got Marvin Mims that's also a home run threat, but he can work the underneath the intermediate routes. Okay, this offense is better because Jaylen Waddle now is not only the number one receiver, he is the deep threat that everybody's going to be worried about, but he can run short routes. He can run across the middle. The only worry you have to worry about with him is his injury history, which that's been documented with Miami, and I've had him in fantasy 1 year, and his injuries, I don't know if he was injured much in 23. I know there was a little stretch where he was, or the year after, but that can be the only frustrating part. But he is really good when healthy, and I believe he is ready to be a number one receiver in Sean Payton's offense, and he's the perfect fit for that home run hitter as far as trying to get the big plays down the field. That is a great fit. And Marvin Mims is very similar too as well. let's go over the other moves that they made more so in the draft class that I want to go over because they didn't have a strong draft, but it wasn't one of the worst compared to some other teams I've seen. Jonah Coleman from Washington, the running back in round 4, that is a really good find for them because he's a solid running back. And then I'm looking at Justin Jolly, the tight end from North Carolina State. That's a really good need because their tight end room was a little bit thin going into the offseason, and they got a guy that I think you're going to see a lot of. You'll see some 3 tight end sets, not as much, but he's a guy that I'm interested to see how he develops. They also drafted Dallin Bentley from Utah. So 2 tight ends they drafted in the draft, and then Red Murdoch, the linebacker from Buffalo. That's a really good late round pick find for them. And then some of the other guys, I don't know much. I know their first pick was Tyler Yedem from Texas A&M, the defensive tackle, and then Gage Casey, the tackle at Boise State in the 4th round. But not really an overwhelming draft. But again, we're not judging draft grades. We're judging overall offseason grades. But a decent draft, nothing crazy for the moment, for the time being. They also gave Sean Payton a 5-year contract, which rightfully deserves. He has built the Broncos, gotten better and better each of the last 3 years, and he deserves that extension. He does not have any signs that he's slowing down, and this team is getting better year by year. So let's move now into the depth chart for this Broncos offense, which they are a deep running back room. But these running backs are used for different packages and different roles in Sean Payton's offense. J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey got some playing time last year late. Jonah Coleman, the 4th round running back, is now 3rd on the depth chart ahead of Jaleel McLaughlin, which I'm kind of surprised because I thought McLaughlin did pretty good late last year, and he's the 4th string running back. A little surprised by that, truthfully. But this is a very deep running back room that one of these guys, I know Dobbins has been injury prone, one of these guys could get a chance to elevate on another team if a team is calling for running backs. And there's a few teams I know that could use a running back to help their room out a little bit. But Denver's got 4 solid running backs that I think would be running back 3s at least on most teams. Some that could be running back 2s if given the opportunity. But Denver, that running back room, really, really deep right now. That receiver room, let me talk about it right now. Troy Franklin, Courtland Sutton, Jaylen Waddle as your starting wide receivers. Then you got Pat Bryant, Marvin Mims Jr., which I find it hard to believe that he's a 2nd string wide receiver. Lil Jordan Humphrey, I remember from the last couple Patriot years. Sean Payton got him, which, hey, he likes those big receivers a little bit too. But this is a very good wide receiver room with guys that can contribute different ways, that have different skill sets to their strength. We mentioned Jaylen Waddle, so I'm not going to go more with him. Troy Franklin has chemistry with Bo Nix. He's a guy that they do have chemistry from their days in Oregon. More of a short route guy, can work the intermediate. Pat Bryant is that 50-50 jump ball receiver that is a great contested specialist, contested catch type of receiver. And then Courtland Sutton, he's a guy that can get by you, not really with his speed, but he's another guy that if he has a couple steps past the defensive back, he can make those catches, but he's also a guy that is a little more physical too as a receiver. And then I talked about Marvin Mims being just like Jaylen Waddle with the ability to hit the home run ball. He's caught a lot of deep passes for the Broncos offense, which you got 2 guys that can hit a home run hits as far as just taking the top off the secondary. You got guys that can work the intermediate. You got guys that are contested 50-50 jump ball receivers. This receiver group, they're not the best names, but as far as roles that they can provide, this is a very good receiver group that fits the roles that Sean Payton wants in the offense. Now, the tight end room, Evan Ingram, Adam Troutman, Justin Jolly, this is a good tight end room. It's a very good tight end room. And I don't think you'll see a lot of 3 tight end rooms because they'll also mix in that 7 offensive lineman package, a la the Frank Crum touchdown against my New England Patriots. But this is a better tight end room than it was last year. So they added some depth to that position, which was very important. Now the offensive line. Top to bottom, this is a very good unit, an elite unit. Garrett Bowles feels like he's been there a while now, at least a decade, which is crazy to think. Ben Powers, really good from Baltimore, went to Denver. He's been solid for Sean Payton's offense. Quinn Menares has been an all-pro guard, at least this year, and he's been very good. And Mike McGlinchey from the 49ers, he's been a very good player for them as well. And then Frank Crum is that mix of a swing tackle on those jumbo packages. This is a very good offensive line from a starting core perspective. Depth is solid as well. It is. So they didn't really have to do much for a team that has been ascending. Now, they are I would say more better depth on offense than they've been, let's say, compared to 2 years ago. Even last year. This is a depth offense that is good, and you want to have depth at some key positions, which they have at receiver, they have at running back. Tight end room is now better with 3 solid tight ends, and the offensive line's got some good swing pieces in case a starter gets hurt. Very good group on the offensive line. Overall, this Broncos offense, I expect to be in the top half of the league in some of the major categories. Let's go to their defense, which is really the strength of this team. And this is where the loss of John Franklin Myers could hurt them a little bit. Starting edge rushers are solid. Malcolm Roach, DJ Jones, Zach Allen in the middle. Those guys are good guys in the 3-4 defense that Vance Joseph's running. You've got Jonathan Cooper, Nick Benito as your starting edge rushers. Jonah Ellis is the rotating piece. But Franklin Myers was that backup rotation guy that if one of them needed a couple snaps off, he would fill in. That's where I think it's going to hurt them just a tiny bit. If they had one small, good rotational pass rusher, this team would just be as good, maybe get back to the Super Bowl again from how well their defense has played. But it is still a very good defense if everyone can stay healthy because they got guys that can stop the run. Zach Allen is an interior disruptor. They have Alex Singleton and Justin Sternad. Drew Sanders is the backup middle linebacker with Red Murdoch. This is a good group of inside linebackers as well. So this defense is solid up front, and their back end, Rodney Moss does have holding penalty issues, pass interference penalties. He does. And he does get in a little bit of trouble there. Talanoa Hufanga is a good in-the-box safety. He's a good in-the-box safety. Plays a little bit like Troy Polamalu in some instances. Okay, we know about Pat Surtain II. We know how good he is, and he was Defensive Player of the Year. We get all that. Jaquan McMillan, good nickel player. Jahdae Barron, I remember him from Texas. He caught my eye a couple times. Brandon Jones is a free safety. I remember him in Miami. He was solid as well. But this defense, I expect once again to be top 5 in major categories. And I had him in fantasy for a little bit. I think it was 2 years ago, I want to say. Even a little bit last year. I'm trying to remember. But I know it was one of the last 2 years. And this defense will once again be really good again in the top categories. I'm not surprised if people say they are the top defense in the league. I would put Seattle right there. I would put the Texans right there. I would put Philly from a roster standpoint with Vic Fangio. They're right there in the top 5. And then I'm trying to think who I would throw in at 5 off the top right now. But there are a lot of really good defenses. And I would put Denver right there in the top 3 to 5 without question. If you want to argue them one, I wouldn't fault you for it one bit. But this roster, we know how good it is. Now, let's also understand this. The reason they didn't make a lot of moves this offseason was because last offseason, they wanted to get all the extensions from their core guys on defense. The Zach Allens, the Pat Surtain II, Cooper, Benito. They wanted to get all those guys extended early. And George Patton and Sean Payton, they did a great job with that last offseason. So that's why this was more on the quiet side of things. But getting Jaylen Waddle is a huge piece, especially with the division and how strong that is, and the AFC as a whole. Denver's right there, once again, not only to be a chance to win the AFC West again, but a playoff team as well. So let's go now to their schedule. Now, this may feel like this is a quick episode because there wasn't a lot of moves that they made, but there also wasn't a lot that they had to improve. This is still a very good team. So, but they made necessary improvements to be right there again in playoff contention, to win a playoff game, maybe win the division, host a game in Mile High again, maybe get the number 1 seed again. That might be a stretch, but it's very well likely with what they have currently built together for 2026. Let's go to the schedule because let's just say they got a favorable draw outside of game 1 against the Chiefs. And I'll tell you all why in just a little bit. So game 1 at Kansas City. Can Bo Nix and company win game 1 when Patrick Mahomes is looking like he's going to play game 1 after his injury? I think they're going to split with the Chiefs. I think they're going to lose in Arrowhead because something tells me the league knows he's going to be healthy for game 1. He's going to play. And then Denver's going to win in Mile High. So they're going to split the series. I have this feeling they're going to lose at the Chiefs. It's just the way that this feels like they want Mahomes back for Monday Night Football, the whole world to watch. Feels like they're going to give the Chiefs a win that game. And listen, I would love seeing the Chiefs lose. And I could say this because I'm not on their episode yet. But I think Denver splits with the Chiefs. I'm going to say they lose at Kansas City week 1 on Monday night. But then they go back home and they play the Jaguars, who they lost to in Mile High last year. They will get their get back. They will beat the Jaguars in week 2. Home for the Rams. This is huge. Mind you, the Rams have to play at Philly after that game. And they're playing a Monday night against the Giants. So it's a short week for the Rams. I think they're going to beat the Rams in Mile High. So give me 2-1 for the Broncos at the 49ers. I think they're going to beat the Niners in Santa Clara, Levi Stadium. I think they're going to go 3-1. So after game 1, they're going to win 3 straight. At Chargers is where loss number 2 is going to happen, where I think they're going to also split with the Chargers. So I'm going to say 3-2 through week 5. Home for Seattle on a short week. They're going to beat Seattle. So not only do you get the Rams at home, you get Seattle at home, which that's huge. You're avoiding the loudest crowd noise stadium in the league. You get them on a short week in your building, so now Seattle has to deal with altitude. The Rams, after they play a Monday night game against the Giants, and then they got to go play at Philly after that game in week 3 against Denver in Mile High. So getting the Rams in Seattle at home, they're going to win both of those games. They might split, ideally, but I think they're going to win both. At Arizona, they'll beat the Cardinals suck. Home for the Chiefs, they'll win. Here's another loss that people are going to go, huh? Hear me out. They're going to lose at Carolina. Why? When you're going from West Coast to East Coast, that travel does get you. And there are games coming up. They got to go all the way back East Coast and then fly back out west. Okay? Carolina's going to be the start of those. I think they're going to lose at Carolina. There's always one game you're like, how in the hell do we lose that game? Carolina might be that game, especially before the bye. Home for Vegas after the bye, they're going to win that. So right now we are sitting at 7-3 if I'm correct. 7-3. Okay? At Steelers on Black Friday. So short week. 3 o'clock start too. They're better than the Steelers. I'm going to say 8-3 as well. Home for Miami, win 9-3. At the Jets, some reason the Jets fucking play them tough the last 2 years. I don't know what it is. They play the fucking Broncos tough. Denver still manages to win. 10-3. They beat Vegas in Vegas. That will be closer than experts will say it is. I'm going to say 11-3. Okay? Buffalo. They lose to Buffalo. I think Buffalo wins. Okay? I already have given them the win at New England when I did the Patriots episode, so I'm going to say they beat New England. That one could go either way, but I'm going to say they beat New England in New England. And then home for the Chargers, I don't think they lose in Mile High, though. However, before I give my final record, I want to say this. I see a scenario where they could lose at Vegas, maybe as another surprise loss, but there's always one, and it might just be Carolina as the surprise loss where everybody goes, how in the hell did you lose that game before the bye? That's probably why it is. They might lose one of those two games, Rams or Seattle at home, but I'm going to say they win both of those and they lose at Carolina. In Vegas, they probably might lose, but I'm going to say they win that one. They'll lose at Buffalo. So I've got the Broncos slotted at 13-4, which looks like they're going to win the AFC West that way. And I think the schedule really worked out for them favorably, which leads me to where did I give the Broncos in my offseason grades? I'm going with a B+. I really like the Jaylen Waddle move for them on offense. I think it helps their receiver room from a depth standpoint and getting Bo Nix a number one option before you have to start paying him a hefty contract, especially him going into year 3. The defense, yes, they lost John Franklin Myers for depth. I'm not going to make a huge deal, but having that extra pass rusher on the edge is nice, especially for rotations. They should know, too, 2015, you had Shane Ray and Shaquille Barrett for DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller. Yeah, Derek Wolfe with Malik Jackson in the middle, but even Derek Wolfe could play a little on the edge, but he was more of an interior guy. But having depth at the edge rusher spot is really nice luxury to have. That's the only thing that made me not go to an A-. But again, I'm nitpicking a little bit. I think overall this team, they had a really solid offseason despite not making moves. And really, the one big move was Jaylen Waddle. So I'm going to land at a B+. I really like what they did, even though it was quiet. But again, you guys are going to find the theme. Some teams may have a quiet offseason, but address what they need to do. Some may not address it because they feel that they're trending up. And that is the case for some teams. Denver is one of those teams. Some teams, they just can't do it because of their situation, cap-wise. Denver's not in that way. They got their extensions prior to them all having to get extensions late. They did it early. So that's more of last offseason than this one. But the way it panned out for them, I'm giving it a B+ for them getting Jaylen Waddle and how this roster is. Again, Bo Nix, if he doesn't get hurt, and I'm saying this as an honest Patriot fan, Broncos make the Super Bowl. This team was one game away from winning it last year. Who knows what could have happened with them in Seattle? It would have been a really low-scoring game, for sure. But this team is still Super Bowl caliber good. So I'm going to say a B+ for the Broncos. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that way you guys can get all the latest content. We're halfway through the offseason grade series, and we are trending toward having this be done in late August in time for the preseason episode where I will give all my playoff teams and my Super Bowl 61 prediction and winner, who I think it'll be for the preseason episode. You can also follow me at LoungeTimePod on X. Yes, I tweeted today a little bit where it was more of the recent broadcasting news of Tony Romo being let go by CBS. Not being let go by CBS, but he's on leave temporarily until further notice. Yes, some breaking news on the Broncos offseason thing, but he's on leave until further notice. J.J. Watt's now taking over temporarily, which that's a different episode topic, but I was tweeting about that, so yes, I'm active, but if you have a question for the show, send it to me, and I'll answer it on the show. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Lounge Time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys on the next episode of 2026 Offseason Grades.